became the richest country in the world, having 80% of the world's money. I'll describe the cycle. By an order, I mean like a world order or domestic order, the system that's in place run by the people who have the power, and then they determine what the system is like. So you change orders, usually by wars, because you have a conflict. And then, okay, how do you resolve the conflict? They have a war. So World War II ended in 1945. The United States won World War II dominantly. It became the richest country in the world, having 80% of the world's money. Money was gold then. It had 80% of the world's gold. And a dominant military. It had a monopoly on that, and it accounted for half the world's economy. And so it set the rules. It's the reason why the United Nations is in New York and the IMF and the World Bank in Washington, D.C. It was the American world order because it was dominant power. Now, when you are in a dominant power, also these wars are sort of great equalizers. People come back from the war. It's not like some are rich and some are poor in the same way. There's a restructuring and you don't have the same wealth gaps and resentments and so on. And that usually means that you have a period of peace and prosperity. Peace because nobody wants to fight the dominant power. And then they work together and they produce peace and prosperity, and that happens. And that's really does best in the capitalist system, in which capital is provided to those who have good ideas because they say, we'll invest in you and you'll be productive and so on. But what capitalism does at the same time is it creates large wealth gaps, and it also creates higher levels of indebtedness. So it creates the large wealth gaps because it distributes that unequally. And then that can be self-perpetuating because those who get power, like if you have more money, you can educate your children better. Gradually, you lose equal opportunity and you produce wealth gap and you produce resentments. And you also then create larger amounts of debt quite often. That means that that's a problem down the road. Now, what happens when you become the world's largest power, this is also always the case. It happened with the Dutch, it happened with the British, that because you're so powerful on production, you go all around the world and you are the largest trading country in the world. You get more exports than other countries and more transactions are in your currency. And so everybody uses your currency, which becomes the world's reserve currency. And because it's the world's currency, different countries save in it, which means that they lend to you in it. And that increases your debt to foreigners because when they hold a bond or they hold cash in that, they're lending it to you to get the dollars back in the future. And so that is also one of the ingredients of making a top. There are the wealth gaps, there's that. And then there's also a change in generations and generation psychology. The greatest generation, in a sense, are those who fought through the war, appreciate basic things, that kind of a thing. What happens is when you're on top, you become more expensive and quite often more decadent. I mean, you might spend on things that are not good investments and don't last very long or whatever, for entertainment at the sake of buying. So for example, in the United States, I remember when we had a per capita income, which was 40 times China's, and we started borrowing from China. So these are the ingredients. And then you start to see that they cause problems, the financial problem, the internal conflict problem, and so on. And then the type of fighting that we're talking about.